Hello, welcome to the live stream. Now, that little graphic just played, and this is my very first live stream, so forgiveness for all the mistakes I'm about to make. There are going to be opportunities in the making for this new ability of service. How are you, Anthony, Mr. Farrow Fox?
Very good, thank you, Luke. I'm doing good and sat here in the nice sunny weather in Spain. And you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm trying to see right now how I can see anywhere on the screen if anyone is on, if there's any chats. I can't see anything. This may be before, but I thought it was on the screen. I see a chat. Let's see.
It
You can
says
do a
it's
chat
running live in the
overlay.
corner.
Yep. Yeah, I wanted to do a live video basically because I was going to do every Wednesday a new podcast episode, and then that was a lot of work doing another hour every single week on top of the hour on the Sunday, while getting the book and loads of other projects done. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll do shorter video calls and try that out that were going to be pre-recorded. And then today something just made me think, why not go live for the first time? So thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on board in such short notice.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know you've been working on a lot of projects recently, and especially with the book coming out. That's great work. Congratulations on that. I've started reading your mini version of the book. The kind of suggestive, it's leading to those topics PDF that you sent. It's very well written, very very interesting stuff, and I'm glad to hear that the whole book is out as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it started off because I was writing another book called The Power of Self, which is really in depth, covers a lot of things, and I wanted to give something free as like a teaser. So I was just going to give out the first chapter, and then as I started that process, I ended up writing a whole nother book, and it ended up not being the first chapter at all. It's a great introduction into the other book, but it is its own separate entity to the other one. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. So I've got it on paperback as well now, and the paperback, the only real difference between that and the digital copy that I'm giving away free is it's got note paper in the back, so you can actually take notes. On one page it has an affirmation, and then it has notes on the other side, so you can actually write in it.
Oh, great. Yeah, and you've been moving on with the all the podcasts. Like, we've started a podcast together, and you've had, I think, that YouTube channel set up for a while. You've always been involved in your projects quite heavily, and it's good to see that they're kind of taking on a new leap forward. And you're getting really passionate about it and keeping up the consistency, which is one of the major hurdles, I think, for when you kind of getting into a project or starting something like a career.
Yeah,
To
I
be
think
consistent.
consistency, you always hear, especially when I started the podcast, it's everyone was talking, you must be consistent. Same when I started YouTube, and even when I used to tell other people to start a YouTube or a project, or even when I was a personal trainer, going to the gym, I was like, consistency is what's key. If you don't come regular and keep it and make a routine, a habit, I said, then it's just not going to grow into anything. So yeah, consistency is important, but you can have small amount of consistency. Like when I started the podcast, to me, it was one a month. I was like, what is the most consistent I can be? And at that time, I was like, one a month. Any more than that, I've got to learn how to podcast, what equipment I need, how to host it, all edit it, every aspect I didn't know. So I was like, I can figure that out in a month to release one episode, figure out how to get one guest. And was you my first guest? Was you my first guest as well?
Well, technically I'm the first guest, but the first episode was yourself, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was just me talking before the guest for a couple of episodes. But yeah, I think you were my first guest, and now I'm my first guest here.
Well, I'm happy to be here to help iron out the kinks, because as we all know, when setting up a project for the first time, you inevitably will make mistakes, or have to overcome obstacles, and we get through it.
Yeah, it takes to the point of what this episode is about. Like I was calling it obstacles to opportunities. And I think I've said to you, and I think I mentioned it in the book as well, that a mistake is only a mistake until you've taken the opportunity given. So you've mistaken an opportunity. And until you find that opportunity, or create that opportunity from that event, be a mistake. But the moment you can choose an opportunity within it, then it transforms and it's no longer a mistake because it's actually something that served you.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. That's a good way of rewording things to get the real meaning. Go to the core of it.
Yeah. Did you get to the bit in the book about where I was breaking down the word opportunity?
Yes. Yeah. I did get through that bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because to me
I
that's
can't
like I
remember
always
what
see
what, what
words. And,
the etymology of that word was. So,
well, there's two.
could
There's
you
one that
restate it?
the one that comes to me first, yeah, and this isn't like the actual. There's a more precise way of breaking it down, but for me, it's offer to tune for unity is the first thing that just comes to mind when I hear opportunity. Yeah, because I can hear the tune and it's got the unity, and an op sounds like offer to me. So that's the first thing that comes into my presence. But when you break down the word as it is, you've got op, which is short for operation, which to me is a strategized approach. Then you've got port. Port is to carry. You have import, export. The ports in a harbor, they carry the boats. So that's to carry. And again, unity is a bit self-explanatory, but that's harmony, to bring harmony. So you're on a strategized operation, strategized actions to carry unity. So that's
That's
and
good.
that's what I
Yeah.
get through in the book. But for me, seeing words and things, they always muddle up anyway. So I always see things a little different.
And it's good to look at these words. There are lots of roots of these words, like the etymology of the words. Stem back to Anglo-Saxons or the Greek versions, or even further. Indo-European language trees and all this sort of stuff. You can look at the literal meanings of the word, but that's kind of also carrying weight in that when you just hear a word and what does it suggest, what does it connotate, and those feelings, those emotions will come up in you if that's the association you're making with it. So it's good that you can even suggest a positive emotional connection to a word regardless of the actual etymology, because that will help us kind of bond with the word and connect with it in a way that when we hear it reminds us of that emotional complex we're trying to build. And that's kind of the root and stem of a lot of the energy work, which is a great thing to instill in any mind, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's also we can notice. Well, I for certain notice it is in relationships, and that can be friendship or partnerships or marriage or whatever it is, that some people use certain words, and you can tell by the way their communication's going that their sort of definition and the emotion attached to a word is vastly different to the way the other person's using it. Like they actually speak in two different languages sometimes because one word feels a different way to them.
There's a bread van going around here. That's why it's
It's a
about
bread
beeping.
van.
Yeah, they drive around beeping, and
You
they'll
don't get
come
ice
out.
cream vans, you get bread vans.
And fruit. There's also a fruit and veg van.
Nice.
Not sure which one it is, or if they have different beeps.
Different beeps.
Got to say, you kind of look like Pan there with the horns coming out and the beard, and you're in the forest.
Pan?
Like
Peter
a god
Pan?
of yeah, but
Oh,
Pan
the
comes
mist
from
god.
the forest
The,
mythology of like a pagan tradition of like the elf of the forest, this trickster
I was going
character.
to say it was Pan on my podcast who you introduced me to, and he was telling me
Right,
that
right.
mythology of Pan and why he takes that name, and he goes, it's sort of the trickster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, you kind of look like that at the moment. Just for some reason, there's like a silhouette of two
Does it look
sticks
like I've got
behind
like a
your
little
head.
hat?
Oh, no, I'm looking at more of the cutaway of the sky that's kind of poking through the trees.
Oh, so like there.
There's two little bits. Yeah,
I was
you'll
doing
probably
a
see
video
it.
call. I was doing a video call with my dad the other day, and the tree was like behind me like that, and it looked like I had a really top hat. He goes, "What you got in your head?" Like for him on the phone, he was sure that's what I had. It's
I'll
all.
just stop this from falling over in the wind.
So what comes to mind in your life when you think of, and it can be small, big, insignificant, significant, but some form of like obstacle that maybe you faced that later turned into an opportunity?
An obstacle that later turned into an
Or in
opportunity.
the moment, however long it took.
Yeah, there was something that comes to mind when you initially told me about this topic. Something that I think I've mentioned to you, and I've been like moving through this past couple of years since we kind of got on the road in at the end of 2018. And that's this period of forgetting, of letting go of the practices that I was keeping up with, in terms of like meditation, yoga, energy work, all physical exercise, and other things like that. And so it was a huge obstacle to go through and overcome these challenges, I wanted to see how my emotional response would be, how my mental and physical limits would be tested by dropping those practices that had like elevated my my being and my life, so to speak. So so it was laden with challenges. It was like running through a gauntlet, and really hard to stick with it. And now I'm just coming back into this, re-engaging with those practices. But the whole point of that is to reinstill the lessons. We learn lessons by practice, and to keep, you forget half the content you learned in one lesson, you go and review your notes, and if you engage with it more, you take on more of that and you retain more of that information. So it was kind of a big cycle of redoing everything from scratch to really instill this feeling that this is something that really has worked for me twice and is doing wonders in my life. And I wanted to have a really strong, firm root in that, so that I would not be swayed by second guessing myself or doubting myself, because there are lots of ways in which that can creep in, facing the paradigm that we exist in commonly as the human species on this planet, on this place.
Yeah, no, it's a few bits of that really stuck out to me, and but it's like you said, sometimes that you do something that you feels beneficial and is doing good, but like you said, if you take time away from it, it almost reinforces that clarity within what you was doing and how well it was working. Whereas you can almost take it for granted sometimes when you build up such consistency in certain practices, that it's almost like it's like a snowball, keep building and building, and once it's really big, you sort of almost forget how it even formed and got to where it was. Like you said, you can take that time off. I've realized in myself doing something similar, and I want to know if it's the same for you, is that when you take the time off and you go back to something, it's there's some stubbornness at the beginning to just get started, but once you do, it's like a memory that the procedures come back tenfold. It's not the same learning curve that you had at the beginning.
Yeah, like riding a bike, you kind of remember how it works. Once you've got that muscle memory, you can much more easily pick it up again. That's exactly it. And the whole to go back and kind of readdress the obstacles part of this, I saw that I was faced with obstacles surrounding kind of egotistical thinking. What's the word? Like kind of disparity towards others. Like I was not feeling so connected to someone who maybe is suffering from depression, for example, because I felt like it'd been a long time since I'd experienced anything near that. So it was a good learning curve to reintegrate with some of these more challenging aspects of the human condition. So that's what I'm trying to say. There was even though I felt like I was like going upwards in the way of this journey, the obstacles became these things that were more deeply rooted. And to address that, I had to kind of peel back the layers or pull back what I was doing and get down into put myself in a consistently lower state of being, so I would feel all of those frustrations, angers that would only come fleetingly now and then, to be really with them and sit in them, so then I could develop the way I deal with those, so that when I am in a place where maybe I'm talking to a bunch of people or doing something that is being watched, I will not kind of shine a light that which I wouldn't want to have. I would be more distorted in what I was saying, is what I mean. I would not be as clear as the intention behind what I want to say. I would sometimes would slip or just be frustrated and not come across how I would like to. So yeah, so it was a good learning curve, and yeah, I think there's obstacles when you're riding higher, and there's obstacles when you're in the pit as well, and both are equally as valuable for learning and growth.
Yeah, and I think that's key. I think it's important that you said that. Like you said, it's the valuableness. There's value to be taken from all experiences, but even the obstacles. And that value, once you've found the value in it, they said it no longer became an obstacle, but something that gave you value, and that value then can be used and contributes to your self-worth and contributes to your service. Like you mentioned, as you was just saying, that you talked a lot about your whole intention and where you were coming from wasn't for yourself. You wasn't actually doing them things thinking, oh, this will make me this way. Sort of, it was like, oh, this will make me a better service when I'm with others.
Yeah, whereas in the beginning it was just for myself, or mostly, I guess, in the beginning. Yeah, so it has it has helped shift things in a more balanced perspective.
So how's your practices and things going now? Because I know you were setting up your Reiki Academia, and I think it's reikiacademia.com.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how's all that going in line with your practices and your service?
So when we launched the site, I think in January of last year, we were in this place where we needed to went through a lot of discussions, like Rita and I talking about how we could offer where's our value. We're searching what do we have, what have we learned through our life experience so far that has value, and then we decided to create a platform where we could share the energy work that we've been doing, and it's not just in terms of energy work, it also will bring in the physical work, because as you know, they go hand in hand. If you're working on your emotions, you're working on your mind and everything like that, you still can use that to program the body and to become physically healthy and fit. It works in with the diet and everything. So we decided to create this because it would be a way to pull all of our experience into one place and put it out there for others who could learn from that, and somewhere we could just keep building towards. So yeah, so about a year ago, or just over a year ago, we decided to start getting back into those practices, and as you said a minute ago, with picking something up again and starting again, there's always a bit of resistance, and I definitely felt that resistance to start again. I wanted to start again with these practices, especially with the meditation, but I felt much more drawn to the physical exercise and the yoga in the beginning, to start off. It felt like I wanted to build from the ground up, because previously I was trying to always go from the top down, and I saw more pursuits of the mind and pursuits of the soul, the spirit, the energy, as more important, and that was the lesson I learned. And Master Taki, my trainer, told me that, put this quite bluntly at one point. I think she kind of dotted around it for a minute, but then put it quite bluntly, saying that you need to work on your lower centers. You need to work on your physical health and your strength, and that translates into what I experienced. And it's been a journey of moving through what was intended from the start of this whole process, and you always take turns and realize different things along the way, and it comes back in ways you didn't expect. I think because I had a blind spot to these things, so they've now come in ways I didn't expect. So yeah, so we built the platform, and it's we've put a free course on there, so anyone who's interested in energy sensitivity training, or even if we want to come from the angle of, if you've never believed in anything esoteric or metaphysical, and maybe even you have ridiculed it, or you have grown up in an environment where that is seen as nonsense, we want to present it in a way that appeals to that perspective, because that's been the journey of now coming back around again, reaffirming these things, and then articulating how to articulating the ways of explaining it. Yeah, so
Yeah, nice. I think from the
practice is getting
beginning,
better,
I remember you telling me about it and that you was building it, and I think you went with the intention right from the beginning is you just wanted to put out a service completely giving as well. Like it wasn't too much focused on that this has to be your career or your main drive. It was just like the main intention at the start was I'm going to put a platform out there. I'm going to serve what served me to as many as I can in a way. But yeah, it's nice to hear that you want to put that to the people that don't really get to should use the word feel it.
That's exactly it. Yeah, we think too much collectively, as a human species, we've really become attached to thinking, and it's I think we're always like circling around this central truth or balance, and we've gone really off into the side of thinking, and the intellect has given us so many great understandings and technologies, but by doing so, by getting off balance on one side, we've lost touch with the feelings and the intuition and all this stuff that we're even now calling out as, or saying, is non-existent, because we're so disconnected from it. So yeah, I think that's going to be something very prominent in the near future or in the coming decades.
I think
Reconnection to nature, and
it's definitely something I think that's growing. More people are aware of. I think the last 2 years of everyone being sort of restricted in their actual physical selves has made them have to dive a little deeper into other areas of life and reflect on so many things. And like for me, and I share in the book as well, I don't know if you got to that bit, but I'm talking about, for me, it's about the separation of the mind. And the mind, like you said, it thinks it has intellect, whereas the body is sensitive and it feels. Yeah, and to me, feelings come first. If I was to be able to, which way's the screen? If I was to be able to poke you through the screen now, you would feel it first, and then you would interpret that with your intellect as to what you think that I put you for.
Yes,
But you would feel the sensation, the feeling, and the thought is created.
Yeah, like the raw data versus the analysis. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's definitely I think it's funny because the one that loves the intellect is the mind who has intellect. So the mind is constantly sort of satisfying itself with this pride and of intellect. But you see the imbalance then goes to the body that feels, and the body suffers, and it's a bit easy to look around these days and see a lot of people whose bodies are suffering. And I think that's why it's so important for people to not only take care of their mind with practices like meditation or anything to create that little bit of balance and stillness from that inner voice and all the things that are flying through the mind, as well as taking literal care of your body physically through exercise and nurture.
Yeah, I think we can liken this whole situation to, as we drive to work every day, we go across the same route, and it becomes subconscious after a while. It becomes second nature to just take that road, and you can drive to work and not think about what you were doing. You can just kind of experience that journey and go off on different intellectual endeavors, or think about other things while you're doing that same task. But then what about if you took the other road to work? You could drive past something you never knew existed, or you could see something that was wonderful and amazing. And I think that's what we've done collectively. We've gone down this one track many times, and it's working, and it's great. And we've gotten faster and faster at it, or better and better at whatever it is conceptually. And and we need to explore these other things, these anomalies in of life.
Yeah, no, it made me think as well then when you said about the road. I always got bored driving on long, boring roads like motorways, multi-lane traffics, because there's so little stimulus. Like you said, you end up just thinking or being in your mind so much. And I remember I used to work in London a lot. And for those that don't know too much about London, it's a big city, but around it's the M25, a huge motorway that goes around in a full circle. And I would often be working right in the north of London, and I'm having to drive all the way to the south, just to the other side. And it would be like a 1 hour drive if I went around the motorway, or a 2, maybe 3 hour drive if I drive straight through the middle of London. And every time I'd rather get home late and drive for 3 hours through the city, and I'd go right through Oxford Street, through the heart of London in the middle of the night, just for the scenery and the stimulation of different things happening. It's like to have that constant, you say, external stimulus in that way, but not be on that consistent, stubborn path of that a lot of people are in. I think it's there's a habit that's been built. It starts as a routine, and like getting up for school. At one point, it's really hard, and then by the time you go to work, you're just in that routine. You get up, you go, and you repeat. You get up, you go, you repeat. And then to break that becomes its whole other problem. I'll get up 2 hours early so you get an hour of your own practices into to better your body, your mind, to work on yourself, and then that's new routine that needs. But it does become a habit, like you said right at the beginning, with consistency. A lot of these things become habit. So do you feel now, with getting back into your practice, are you still in the point where you're setting routines for yourself with meditation, with your practices, or some of it come back into habit that you just do it?
Yeah, so they always start off as a sporadic thing, or just a spontaneous thing, sporadically throughout the days in the beginning. But like, it starts off first as a spontaneous thing. So I'll just think, well, this is something I want to get involved with again, and I've been thinking about it for a while. Now is the time, and I'll just start doing it at one point, and then I'll, when I start to feel the benefits. So let's say, like with the yoga, maybe middle of the afternoon, and then maybe after I've had breakfast. But now it's become something that first thing in the morning, waking up and going straight to the yoga mat, and waking up the body, and loosening up and just getting everything in motion. And I know you relate to that. You do the same thing, and it sets the tone for the day. If you can go from being lying still for hours, and then to suddenly go walking downstairs, or to be engaging with these tasks, it can definitely be something we do subconsciously. So you'll just grab something, maybe the shoulder will click, or you pull a muscle because the machine's not been oiled, and it's not you haven't limbered up, so to speak. So I think in the morning, the yoga has definitely been something that's helped. And then recently, I've started meditating again in the evenings, so on regularly in the evenings. And then the other practices, such as like the Qigong and the Reiki, I have been picking up again sporadically, now that those other two have been kind of have found their place in my daily routine. So I don't know where they'll land, but I used to do Qigong first thing in the morning instead of the yoga. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I've recently, when I started writing the book, I actually switched it up. I went into doing creativity first thing in the morning, which was really bizarre for me after years of doing a morning physical routine.
Mm-hmm.
So normally my morning before was starting with like minimum of like an hour of physical stuff, whether it's going for a 30-minute walk, and then doing sort of Tai Chi yoga type stuff to loosen, Qigong stuff to just open all my system. Whereas when I started writing, I was like, I'm going to get up, and the first thing I'm going to do is put pen to paper and start writing, and just let the creativity flow, but as almost an experiment as well, to see what that would be like. Because I would do my YouTube videos after normally I'd done my morning routine. I'd do all my things, get my body awake, like you said, lubricated, flowing and open, and then I would make a YouTube video or do something towards whatever my thing was of that day. And it was really weird, because afterwards, after doing something creative for a couple of hours or even an hour, to then go and do the physical thing, there was actually a lot of resistance, because your mind's gone straight into the reward system of like doing a good job and getting tasks done. So I had this thing of like, why don't you just do another bit on this? Do this, now do that. You've done that. Why don't you work on this now? And it's like, and then a part of me's going, get up and move, stretch yourself out, go and breathe, go and walk. And a part's going, do another project, start something else. So it was really interesting to go through that experience of switching something that's been because it was just routine for me. It didn't feel like I had to force it in the morning at all. It was something that I'd built over time with consistency. So it was just something I really enjoyed doing. But yeah, now I've put that book out, and I'm still writing the other book, and I still got loads of other projects. But now I'm trying to rebalance like I've been actually just going with the flow in the morning. Some mornings I just start doing some work bits and doing things towards my tasks, and then sometimes I'm like, you know, I'm going to move my body. Sometimes I might do 10 minutes of one, 10 minutes of the other, and switch it up. I haven't actually gone back into a regular routine every morning at the moment. It's quite an odd place to be, but quite a free place to be, if that makes sense.
Well, it's nice if you've described it as something like a general category, like you said, just I'm going to be creative in the morning, because that can be so many different things. But as long as you're still committed to doing that general topic or doing something within that topic every morning, that's still a routine, and it's going to have a lot of, like you said, freedom. There's so much that can go into it, and it's amazing how quickly a routine can take hold. I think that even just doing, well, three's a pattern. Three's the most basic pattern. So as long as you do something 3 days in a row, I think it just gives that drive, that that instills that feeling to continue. And I think the general statistic is that if you do something for about 60 days or 2 months, you will do it subconsciously, or it will just become kind of awkward not to do it. You will feel like you need to.
Yeah, I always noticed, like, quite early in life, I was like, if I change something, because I was always setting myself these like goals and trying to do different things, and I noticed like 21 days there seemed to be some sort of change happen. Not an instant like, oh, it's now really easy. If I could stick to something for 21 days, a lot of the pressure dropped off, whatever it was, whether it was just like not eating bread for 21 days or getting up and going for a walk or fast pace or going to the gym first thing in the morning. Whatever I said, as soon as I got past that 21 days, something changed, something got easier, something got
Well, that's
smoother.
exactly 3 weeks, and three's the pattern again. This
Yeah.
is interesting because it's when we think of like geometry, this is like a mathematical concept, and this is how I think now, seeing how these mathematical concepts relate to our emotions and the feelings and our neurological pathways and things, we're going to see our connection with the universe a lot more on a much deeper scale. Because if you have 1 point, it's just on or off, and you can have 2 points of polarity, a duality, and then the 3 points make stability, and you have an enclosed volume and an enclosed space. And I think that when you see it reflected in the over time in cycles, that's probably why these things start to make sense. Just like in a smaller scale, we have 21 minutes as being like a kind of average attention span length for something you're interested in. We're not talking about now how it's measured in milliseconds for a child's attention in this crazy digital world, new life we have. But the typical attention span would be 21 minutes for a movie or a
And if anyone
documentary.
is now 33 minutes, and I can see, actually, I've just found the bit where it says we've got a viewer, and I was a little distracted and my camera wobbled because someone just jumped on my table with my
Hey,
desks. Say hello,
Champiano.
champs. And you can hear the little noises she's making. I'll let you go play. She just jumped up on the laptop and knocked everything a little bit, but she's doing her own
Playing
thing.
in the field of daisies there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all about to go for a walk in a minute. It's their evening walk time.
Okay.
We got one listener. If you're there, you can drop a comment. Someone's popped in. I've seen it go up and down a couple of times, but drop a comment. Say hello. Where are you? I can't see the name. You're currently watching, but love to know where you are in the world. One of the things I find so beautiful about technology is that instant connection with people. That, like, did you ever have a pen pal when you was younger?
Yeah, I did. And
You had
I
one.
can't remember the name
I always
of
wanted
I
one.
had an
one.
actual like person from another school, like another kid in another school. But I was also writing with who's the I've forgotten her name now, but the lady who I think she published a version of Anne Frank's diary, and I can't remember her name now. But I was writing with her for a little while because I really felt impacted by that book, and I wrote to her. Not Anne Frank, of course, the author of the book, the translation, and she wrote back, and then I wrote back again, and we had a few back and forth. So I had a little pen
How
pal.
old would you have been then?
I was. It was before I was 10 years old, so I think I was maybe 9 or 8. Yeah, it was. It was part of a school project. Like, we were reading the book in school, and a few of us sent letters, and I think I wrote like a page back and front of all my thoughts, or just like, you know, giving appreciation and just asking questions and things, and then she wrote back, and then I wrote back again, and yeah, it was like a little pen pal back and forth.
Oh,
But there was another
oh,
one.
nice.
I can't remember that though.
Yeah, no, because I was always fascinated when I was younger. The idea of it sounded amazing. I was like, oh, I could write to someone in another country, wait a month or so, and they'll write back. You know, and I know it never happened in my life, but it was something
Oh
I was
no.
aware of that happened, and I was fascinated by it. And whereas
Mm.
now, like I'm doing a podcast with someone, and they're in the other side of the world. I had someone on my YouTube channel who might be watching this in the replay. They might even be the #1, but they're in New Zealand, so I imagine that the time zone change, it might be right in the middle of the night for them right now, or really early in the morning. But yeah, there was Cool Beans, there's their name, and they were in New Zealand. So to be able to connect with someone
Oh,
like
okay.
across the world, and they've just ordered the book on Amazon. So I now know my book's on its way to New Zealand, which is nice. It's just
Wow.
a
Nice.
magical time to be able to connect with people.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So
Well,
yeah,
cool
so it's just
beans. I hope you
fascinating.
enjoy it. We'd
So
love
do
to
you
hear
know what
from
the
you.
reference is? Cool Beans. I figure I
Uh,
dropped
it
a
was
comment to
always
him
like
and
a
got it right.
phrase, like when we were young. So in the 90s, it was a phrase people would just say, like cool beans. But I think it got a lot of popularity from that, you know, the Lonely Island crew,
Yeah, the Hot
and
Rod film.
Andy
Yeah,
Samberg. Yeah, Hot Rod. Yeah,
yeah,
I think
that's what I
it's
remember
in
it
that. Yeah.
from that. Yeah, I
So I
remember
think
that film.
that's maybe, you don't know if it's from that or one of the original, the OG cool beaners.
Yeah, who started it originally? Yeah, no, but no, it's fascinating to be able to connect with people. And like I said, we're actually not too far away. We're both in Spain. Yeah, so that's why we've got some nice background. It's still warm. It's getting really warm for us here now. We're going to be
Yeah.
heading somewhere a little cooler, at least 5 degrees cooler by just going north quite a bit. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
it's getting
getting
up to the
too hot.
30s now.
Yeah, we had like 35 here this week.
All right. Well, we're up in the mountains, and it's still just getting on to 30.
Yeah, I can see your tan. You look darker than me.
A bit
Yeah,
more
so I
orangey
was
as
gonna
well.
keep this to about 40 minutes. I don't know. I don't see any chat come in. So whoever you are, thank you for watching. And this will go up on YouTube as a normal video as well. I'm pretty sure afterwards if I figure this out, because it's the first time. Hopefully not the last time. Yeah. But did you have
Well,
anything show or anything you wanted to talk about?
yeah, there was one thing I wanted to get to, and wanted to highlight, because I think it's something quite relevant right now, especially with all the mental health issues and depression and attachments that we've been seeing play out, and that's played out with me as well. And I want to make a point that an obstacle can be the attachment to something or an addiction to something, and when we, whatever it is, whether it's a habit or a substance, food, drink, smoking, all sorts of things, right? A person or a place, or a type of social interaction, and sex, for example. So there are so many things that we can be attached to, but we cannot see them as attachments, and they can be something that we feel so drawn to. Just as you were saying earlier, like when you are doing something so much, or like when we spoke about the road concept, going to a road, and I see it as like sharpening a sword. When that thing you've been working on is so precise and so well honed, it's very easy to go to, because it can just cut through the emotional consequences. You feel bad, you can do this, and you know you're going to feel good again, and that's becomes the quick way out, the escapism, and it prevents us from using other tools that we have available. So we get so dependent on one thing, that it becomes such an obstacle to get away from that thing, to then pick up the other tools that we haven't used. And it's for example, in terms of skills, if we have such a skill in one area of life and we don't pay attention to the others, you just pay attention to your intellect, you don't pay attention to your body, the imbalance that's created can be an obstacle in itself. And I think that to overcome our attachments to things and try something different, do the harder thing, do the extra work right now, is going to be where we'll find the most value, learning, growth, and ultimate experience from at this time.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, and I think with addiction, a lot of the time, there's so many things we can become addicted to that we're unaware that we're addicted to because we haven't stopped them for long enough. And to me, an addiction can be to so many things. I said a strong attachment to something or someone or a place. And it's like until you stop yourself from whatever that is for a certain amount of time, you'll soon realize whether you go out of balance, whether your attitude changes and you become miserable, or you just get really easily irritated, or there's some sort of form of discomfort arises until you redo that activity or whatever it was, and then you feel some sensation that you're a bit more balanced. And it's like that's a good indication that you're sort of becoming dependent on something, where you should have an inner independence rather than a dependence on something external. And that's like a possibility. That's something that you can create. And again, back with consistency, and it's worth doing them hard moments, because like we said with the how time 21 days, maybe 60 days it will take, for that to suddenly change. But for the first bit of it, it may feel like a lifetime, but really when you reflect back, you go, wow, that was fast.
Yeah, and to be open and honest about it, I think that I struggled for a long time with the addiction to the feeling brought on by marijuana, cannabis, and it was something that I think I went to in my youth for social interactions, and then it became something I was doing alone, and I put it down for a few years, and then at one point it came back into my life, and it was again just a kind of insight into something, or just like a once a month or something like that, whenever it came up. It wasn't something I sought, and at that point it became like a healthy connection again. But it slowly went back into this dependency, or this emotional addiction, because I felt that when I had that, I would be much more open and aware of my surroundings. My whole experience became centered around the physical space around me and within, and that was really beneficial for the energy practices, for emotional awareness, for becoming present. Just meditating. And then it became a crutch. I always said in the beginning this would not be a crutch for me, but then it did become the crutch, and that was of my own doing, because it becomes something that I made an excuse for. And I think I spoke to you about this when we first met. Actually, it was something that I was moving away from again, because it become something that I would not be able to commit to a practice, or to I would not want to meditate or do qigong without that, or it would not feel as valuable to me. And that was the great mistake, or the great delusion that I had at the time. And I think with this whole process I've described earlier of forgetting and remembering again, it was to remind myself of that, and that the clear path is to be clear-minded, and to be of clear chemistry inside, because then it doesn't have a slant on it. It doesn't, like, if I want to I can switch from going inwards to being extrovertly aware of what's going on, in terms of what the people are thinking around and what's going on tomorrow and that sort of stuff. Whereas if I was intoxicated, I would not be able to just release myself from that chemistry, because it's anchored. The cannabinoids are anchoring my awareness into that. So I think with physical addictions, and it's chemistry at the end of the day. It is all chemistry, whether it's physical addiction or a mental or emotional addiction. It's still chemistry, and the way we physiologically respond to something is guided by our intentions, by our awareness. But when we and so that's why it's a crutch, or it's like something to use in the beginning. Any substance or any food we put in help us get somewhere directly or quickly, but we can always go there with our unhindered awareness and pureness of will, of thought, if we choose to do that, and if we hone that, if we sharpen that tool, then it's one of the sort of all-encompassing umbrellas. It's presence, it's awareness, it's consciousness, and then we're tapping into kind of the fundamentals of the human experience and nature as we know it.
Yeah, nicely put. What come to mind there is something I was talking to in like a video group call, and I was explaining to them, because someone in there was struggling with pretty much what you're saying, being inwards for a certain amount of time, being outwards for a certain amount of time, and they were like struggling to go between. And what came to my mind in it, and then I was going to do a YouTube video, which I haven't done yet, was the words focus, agility. Because when you have agility, it's that sort of, it's like flexibility, ability to go from different things. And I found through doing multiple practices and time that gaining a certain amount of freedom and flexibility within, but then that gave me a skill to be able to have a focus agility, that I can be doing a task, something could distract me externally, and then I could be present for that, then come back to what I was doing. And it's like a fitness level. Each time you start to get a little bit better at them sort of things, not being shaken. Like I said, but I'd noticed definitely cleaner my system is, the smoother and purer my mind is, the more focus agility I have. So you're like a much stronger ability to be present, to be focused, and where focus goes, energy flows. You know, so just to have that. But I think for anyone that is having issues with addiction, like I said, there's addiction. Most of addictions are happening to the body, like you said, it's consumption, whether it's some sort of chemical you're consuming. But there is addictions of the mind, like you said, through the intellect, through processing information. And I went through a phase where I felt, do you remember the film Short Circuit? The robot.
Johnny Five.
Yeah. And I was addicted to input. You know, like how he goes to the library and gets the books. And
Input.
I would just be like, every moment I can, someone's chatting away in my ear in headphones when I'm out on a walk. I'd be like going through video on YouTube to this video, lectures, and getting PDFs sent to my phone, read them, might have someone in my ear at the same time as I'm reading something. You know, and it's like, and you're doing it I'm doing the dishes and I've got someone talking in my ear. And I didn't realize there was a certain amount of addiction there, because when I stopped and I was like, let's just have some silence while I do something, and then try and be present and enjoy doing the dishes or something small. And it's like, oh, you're wasting your time. Do so. There's a voice going, you should be doing something, you should be learning something, you should be getting something. And then it took time to really realize that no, you can change them ways. You know, but I have found through breaking multiple different addictions of different sorts, that it is the consistency. And a big part of self-encouragement, I think, is a huge part. Not to be reliant on encouragement for others, and others as support. That's great if you get it, but that's not what you should be reliant on. It's the support from yourself, that you encourage yourself and you want the best for yourself.
Yeah, and then those become the subconscious processes over time. That's kind of what we've been encoding into this, this course on Reiki Academia, is to weave in the neuro-linguistic programming, so that if we can remind ourselves and change our chemistry, we can step into a completely new way of being, or the one that's desired anyway. So yeah, it has its obstacles, but there's always the reason why you're getting over the obstacle. I think we need to be reminded of that sometimes, or remind ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to end it there. It's a beautiful place to end, and it's loads of nice insights, and thank you for this conversation. And where can someone go to check out? It's a free Reiki course that's still available?
Yes, it is. Yes, so it's just reikiacademia.com. So REIKI.
And I'll put it in the description, which will be down there somewhere. And for those that don't know, there's a little arrow next to YouTube. I think a lot of people don't know how to actually find the description in YouTube, because down the bottom there's like a tiny little V, and you click that and then it opens up. But I think so many people are going onto YouTube now, and most people just assume everybody knows how to use these things. So for those that don't know, there's a little thing in the bottom next to, it's like one line of the description. Press that, somewhere. It will open up. Yeah. And I'll put it in the comments as well. That's what I keep meaning to do. When I've got links, I was like, I need to drop them in the actual comment, so people can just go down to the comments and see it.
Oh, thank you, Luke. It's been really good talking to you again.
Thank you. And thank you for anyone, the watchers that came in. Someone literally just left as was coming to the end. It went up a couple of times and went down, but we'll see. Maybe these will build up after time and get some regular viewers. See what happens.
Oh, good luck.
So I'm going to say adios, amigos. And I'm going to end the live stream.
Ciao.
Ciao.